Okay. Hello, everybody. We're having a kind of rainy day. Well, it's cloudy anyway. And we're waiting for an order to be delivered, and okay. Recently, our first lady, and I'll be polite and say first lady, because she's married to a president, went public to state that she was not friends with Jeffrey Epstein. Here's my reaction to that. First off, she dated that man. She was dating that man before she married Trump. Now, I don't know if she knew Trump prior to Jeffrey Epstein, but she probably did. But to say you weren't friends with him, but you hang out on in his house or island or whatever, and there's pictures going around stating she, was there. Okay, so to stand up there and lie and say you weren't friends with him, you dated him. So, in fact, you were more than friends in that case, because you dated him. Now, I'm not trying to disrespect her in any way, okay? What she did in her past life, she did in her past life. That's neither here nor there right now. But what I don't like is she's trying to measure up to first ladies like, Jacqueline Kennedy, Eleanor L. Roosevelt, any first lady that came before her, seems ridiculous to me. I know. Yeah, you see that blemish. I get them. But, stand there in public and say something that you were never friends with him when you dated him, and there's pictures. Let's get this straight. There's pictures of you and him together as a couple and with your now husband, which is president. But you never knew him. Come on. Who's she trying to kid? She's trying to blatantly lie she didn't know the man or wasn't friends with him, but yet she spent time, at his place and dated him and went to his place with her now husband. And there's pictures all over the internet stating that. But she expects us to be fooled by that. You're not fooling me, by the way. And that's what I would tell her. You're not fooling me. Speak the truth. Just because you were there doesn't mean you did anything to those girls. I don't know. I wasn't there, so I'm not going to condemn you and say that. But to stand out there and say you didn't know what was going on, you didn't know the man, she needs to be truthful, but she knows her husband is in deep, what, because, once he's out of office via either impeachment or it's just his time went out, depending on, what goes on, you know. But to stand there and lie to the public stating that, really isn't a good thing to do either. Now, is it? I mean, none of us are free from lying. I'm sure everybody in the world has lied at least once, if not more, in their life. I know I have. Okay, and, I try not to, but sometimes you need to. But in this case, she should have come clean and did the truth instead of stating she wasn't friends with him. If you're not friends with somebody, you don't go to their house. Even if you're married to one of their friends, you still don't go to their house. And she knew what was going on there. This is what I don't understand about her. Especially with the fact that her husband doesn't like immigrants and wants to get rid of them all. Well, the lady was an immigrant. Yeah, she's an American citizen now. Whether it was bought for or whatever. It states on her documents she's now a citizen of the country. But she stands there and says that kind of stuff, makes people think, anybody with a brain is going to know she's lying. And, I have nothing against the fact that she's from Slovenia. I have nothing against her, period. I don't like her husband. I never have. Even before he married her. He's a cheating piece of crap. Plus, he is on that list and he's trying to figure out how to keep people from seeing it. There is documentation by Jeffrey Epstein that they were friends. And he's trying to find every piece of evidence against him before he gets out of office. And that's why the Iran thing happened. To keep our minds off there. To go over there and bomb that country when they're not doing nothing to us at the time. Instead of starting wars, he needs to figure out how to keep peace. And get along, try to get along with it. But she's standing there, but my point is on this one. It's her point she's trying to make, she's lying. Down outright, period. Lying about how much she knew that man. And I know, deep down, she knows that what that man was doing. I know she does, because she was there. She may not have participated. She may have been doing something else, or hanging out with other people or other men, who knows? That's between her and the maker upstairs. But what I'm trying to say is she's standing there on in public lying about who she knows. So, I know there's a lot of people that support Trump. Well, you need to call her out on her lie. A lie is a lie. Doesn't condemn her. I'm not condemning her or saying she participated in molesting and raping those girls. What I'm saying is she was there. She knew it. She, as a woman herself, should have stepped up a long time ago. But because she married Trump, and Trump being a billionaire, not by his hard work, but his father's hard work mainly, she stood by and probably watched it happen. So she needs to stop lying and say, look, I was there. My guilty problem is that I didn't stop it. I didn't step up and say it was wrong. I didn't call the authorities. She should have. But what she was thinking was money. Because the man she married to got a lot of money. Let's face it. Tell the truth. You know, there's no reason why, and she was beautiful when she was young. You know, there's pictures of her when she was young, when she was still doing the escorting thing. She was beautiful. I can see why he went for her. But he was still married. You know, he's still cheating on his wife. I mean, he cheated on his first wife with the second wife, and cheated on his second wife with his now wife. What morals is that? And he claims to be Christian. Boy, you know. Tell me if I'm wrong. You know, you stand out there in public and say you didn't know somebody, even though there's proof you dated them. Proof you were at his house quite a few times. But you didn't know him. Come on. Here's the thing. There's proof she knew him. There's proof she dated him. There's proof she was with him and Donald Trump. I don't know if they were all together. That's a whole new thing. That's not my business, you know, when it comes to that. But we have to think, you know, why she stood up there and lied. She wants to alienate herself from the whole situation because she knows her husband's going to be in trouble when he gets out of office. You know, which I think they need to impeach him. And most of the administration, because all those ones that agree with him about what he's done, you know, is dumb. But first, you know, they need to realize the history. This country was not ours when Mayflower landed. It had people living on it before the Mayflower. You know, and Native people were here. You know, there was always, you know, already tribes spun across what is now the nation. So, you know, but the fact to, you know, chase people out because they're not documented, then instead of going after them the way that he has ICE going after them, he needs to help them get citizenship. If they really want citizenship, if they have the help to get it, they'll get it. Because these are the same people they're not chasing off criminals. All the criminals that the, you know, Trump supporters are, you know, supporting the ICE situation. You know, these are not people that committed crimes like murder, rape, and all that. They're just people that are here illegally that don't have the means to become legal citizens is all the ones that they're picking up. So, you know, don't think that everybody they pick up is criminals. Kids are not criminals. You know, they're children. And if you want to pull and send the anchor babies back with them, then maybe Trump better think about that, because he was an anchor baby, and so is his son Barron, and so is his first kids from his first wife. If you want to go that route, which I don't think you should. But anyway, the point is about whatever her name is, Marlena, whatever she wants to call herself. She stood up there and lied to everybody. She knew Jeffrey Epstein. She stayed with him for, you know, overnight. She probably met Trump there. So she witnessed, I know she did. She had to have witnessed it, because it did happen. You know, all these girls coming out, well, they're women now, all coming out with what's been going on. How do you think the former Prince Andrew got caught? Okay? He was right there with them. I feel bad for his daughters to have to deal with that because it's not their fault their dad is that way or their mother's fault. Anyway, that's my opinion. Thanks for watching. Comment if you want to. Send me an idea for a topic, and if I know anything about it, I'll talk about it. Anyway, I hope everybody has a good day. And I shall see you in the next one, whichever that. Maybe tomorrow, maybe Monday, we'll see. Anyway, bye guys, have a good day.